Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat Five segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show. What is up? Welcome back to Drummers on Drumming, a podcast powered by Big Fat Snare Drum. We are back with another installment of the Drum Panel, and this week we have my co-host, Eric Urrea. We have a new guest, Dean Sinclair, a Chicago-based drummer who keeps busy with Capital Soirée, Worry Club, Ostin. We also have Max Flanders, another good buddy of mine from LA, who's currently playing with Lukas Nelson. And of course, you have me, Mr. Benjamin Hilzinger. And I wrote a bunch of what we talked about down. So we talk about how to handle unsolicited feedback without spiraling into existential dread, the delicate balance between self-expression and being hireable, whether good taste is something you're born with or you can develop, that awkward moment when a producer tells you to play something you're already playing, learning to interpret non-drummer feedback without losing your mind, the anxiety of showing people your work and how to move past it, bunch of stuff, overcoming red light syndrome. We talked about a lot, and of course I get too vulnerable, like always. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode of the Drum Panel. Bye. So Dean, I've already asked Eric this, and I think I asked Max this separately off, but I'll ask you again on the air. What is the oldest piece of gear that you currently have? The thing that you've had the longest?
Probably like a old double kick pedal from when I was a little guy. The chain is like that would connect the two is completely busted, but like in like a little practice spot, it still gets some use. That and like a 16-inch 2002 Crash. I cracked it in middle school, and then like sometime in college had a guy like cut out the crack, like carve it out. So probably those. Yeah, honestly.
Does it still sound good?
Did it ever really sound that good? I don't know, but I do love my Peisty, but 2002s aren't my favorites. But for like a rehearsal or something like that, or just like a very casual band practice, for sure. It sounds just fine.
All right, Max, what about you? What's the thing you've had the longest?
Probably this, you're not going to be able to see it in the podcast, but this Yamaha drum kit behind me, that is a Yamaha 8000. It's an 80s, it's like right below the 9000, which is a recording custom. And my dad got it off a military base, and that's like the drum kit I grew up playing on when I was like 3 years old. Also, my dad is like so crazy about taking care of gear. So my dad's a drummer, but nothing is beat up that he has. So
are you better than your dad?
It's not about that.
but if it was, I totally agree. But if it was though,
what does better mean? You play more in time or something?
Yeah. Do you play better in time than your dad?
Yeah, sure, yeah. I could say that. I think he would agree.
Okay. That's great. What about you? So we'll go to Dean and maybe Eric if it's changed for you. And then I have some specific questions that happened to me this week that I want to talk about. But if you could be a fly on the wall for any recording, what would it be, Dean?
This is a cool one, I think. And sometime in college, my buddy showed me like a YouTube video, and it was like 2 sides of a 45 combined, digitally done, and it was this song called Bad Girl by an artist named Lee Moses. It was recorded in like 1967, and it's just like the coolest. I don't know soul music very well at all, but it's just for whatever reason, just how this song is recorded, and just how it sounds like the horns are out of tune. The first chorus hits, and you can tell the drummer didn't know it was like the first chorus, so you hear him like switch to ride like from halfway through. It's just the coolest song, and just like such this artist that like basically YouTube rediscovered. So I don't know. I think it was recorded. He was from Georgia, but it may have been recorded in New York. But just, it's the coolest recording.
telling me how the little girl was running around. But I had a head of my own, and I just wouldn't listen to nobody. My father, he told me, my mother sat down and cried. So, son, this woman will break your heart, and then she'll put you down. That's when I told mama these words. Lord have mercy.
What about you, Max?
Man, really, there's so many.
Just say your top 46.
I would do a Bad Bad Simba by a guy named Adonal Levi because it kind of has the Stuff guys in it also. So it has Gad, it has Richard T. I think it has Eric Gale. It's very like drinking your cocktail in the pool.
All right, here we go. It's got like boogaloo, it's got disco, it's got fusion, it's got a bunch of
Feels
things.
like straight off a Tarantino playlist. I love it.
And Gad gets crazy at the end. It's a good time.
So I talked to Max right after this happened, and I won't say names and I won't say the song because the context doesn't really matter. But I was listening to a song on the way to actually meet up with Max earlier this week, and I sent it to this group of drummer friends we have, and I was like, man, this snare is really interesting. It's really cool. And then one of our friends got back and he's like, is that interesting? It sounds like every snare in 2025. And in the moment, I got so like defensive. I love this guy. He's one of my closest friends, but he's kind of a curmudgeon sometimes. And he made me feel so like angry in the moment that I was like, yeah, dude, I thought it was interesting. So screw you, you know? And I was aware of how visceral my response was. And the funny thing is that album I sent him was recorded in 2014. So it was actually 11 years ahead of its time. So I didn't say that, but how do you guys deal with it when someone questions your taste, whether it's about a sound, a groove, or a take or whatever? Do you get defensive, and have you guys made peace with just being like, I don't care about people making fun of my taste? Because I'm obviously still very insecure and small man syndrome about it.
Excuse my French, but everyone's got an asshole, you know?
Yeah.
As I say, it's like, at the end of the day, this is art. You know, that's kind of what makes this thing cool, is everyone... I don't think that there's any absolutes at all in music. Like, this is absolutely the right way. This is absolutely the wrong way. It's just like, it's cool that people have different tastes.
I think to me, the reason why I get so defensive about it is because then it makes me want to over-explain why I think it's cool. And then it makes me question if there's ever, you know, a sound that I'm like, okay, this sounds cool enough to record the take and send it to the engineer, or, you know, the way you tune a snare live and you're like, I think this sounds good in this room. Whenever someone questions my taste in music, it makes me have less confidence in like everything I'm doing that I think sounds cool in the context of like, you know, like Max at the show you saw me at the other night, you commented on how you liked how the bass drum sounded. And I was super self-conscious about like trying to get that in that context of this like backyard patio thing. So when someone says that, not to repeat myself a third time, but that's where my head goes. I just go like, oh fuck, maybe I don't have any taste in anything.
I would say, just on a general thing, I would say that nothing is for everybody. If someone says like, hey man, I don't really like your band, like that kind of thing doesn't really affect me that much, because I'm just like, that's fine. That's not for you. It's for somebody else.
What if they say something specific about something that you're insecure about?
But yeah, I mean, to your point though, I try to parse it out based on where it's coming from. If it was my bandmates being like, hey, your snare drum sounds like crap, which would maybe be something I'm self-conscious about, then I would for sure take that more to heart. And honestly, I probably wouldn't fight back as much as I would just change it. I'd be like, oh, okay, let me tune it up real quick.
All right, so what I'm gathering so far is that you guys have a strong sense of self and that you don't tie up everything that negative someone says about you and spiral. Great, awesome. What about you, Dean? Help me out, man.
Yeah, I don't know if I can back you that much. I don't know. It's like definitely like I typically trust an engineer with that stuff more than myself. I wouldn't call myself like an engineer by any means. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. In terms of just like music though, it's like it is funny because the band I'm at right now, they kind of would call themselves maybe like emo punk in a way. So like the van rides are just full of bands I have absolutely never heard of, and to me it all sounds very similar, like the twinkly guitar sort of thing. But then also simultaneously back home in Chicago, I do once a month a 5-hour long 80s goth and post-punk DJ vinyl set that definitely, I don't try to like repeat bands at all, but it all sounds identical.
Okay.
You know, so I don't know. I definitely am kind of forgiving. I don't take it that seriously if I like an artist or a drum sound and someone else doesn't.
I've always been afraid that I have really bad taste in music, you know, and it's forced me to overcorrect. And I know I see Max rolling his eyes, but I mean, it's just a huge insecurity of mine because I grew up, just my group of friends were we'd make dick jokes and whatever. So of course we all listened to Blink-182, and it was less even about the music as just the energy and the camaraderie of that scene, I guess. And I get really insecure because I sometimes ashamed of my younger self. And maybe this is too much for you guys. You're like, dude, Ben, no, we all have a head in our shoulders. But
I think with certain artists being introduced to, this might be like not a good take, but I hate that. It's like the right person maybe needs to be the one to show you Steely Dan, or like needs to be the one to show you Radiohead. I feel like sometimes those fan bases maybe don't have like the greatest reps.
Yeah, I also think it has to be the right point in your life too, because like to Dean's point, yes. I have a lot of friends who listen to a lot of emo music, and that's also generally not for me. But I also am able to acknowledge that if I had found some of these bands in like high school, that would have sent me on a whole different trajectory. You know, it's really funny to think about that now.
I think I liked when I was younger, just with all that angsty aggression, I liked drum sounds that sounded like you were hitting the shit out of them, like Black Album, most Blink records, a rim shot, Travis is just like a cannon back there, or Paramore. And now as I get older, I appreciate a good performance now. Might have been the most obvious thing to say, but I mean that's why I listened to those songs back then. It was just an energy thing.
To be fair, I very much grew up in the Southern California hardcore scene, and it took me a long time to not forget that stuff, because there's still a part of me that loves going back and listening to those records here and there. But I had a reality check one day when I was younger, and I was like, if I want to play drums for other people, most people don't want to hear this stuff. It took years to learn how to do the soft touch thing. Even when playing quiet, I still hear it back on recordings where I'm like, I sound too intense, and I'm playing really soft, but it's just that intensity of that backbeat. I don't think you should be ashamed going back to Ben of like what you grew up listening to, because that is kind of like what makes you kind of cool.
Yeah, no, and thank you. But I mean, the thing I figured out over the years is one thing that I'm really confident in with my drumming is my right hand 16th note Gadsden. Like I can pretty high tempos, I can make that feel good, and that's all from playing pop punk. Is that really quick molar thing, and specifically with cannons, there's a lot of songs that comes in handy in an insane way. So I mean, there's definitely things that I appreciate about it. I think it's more when I'm in a creative arena and I hear a song where it's just completely open-ended, where you can take the drums. There's not an obvious way that most drummers would do. I tend to lean towards these influences that are, I wish I could just, and I've said it before, but like have that Men in Black thing where like, all right, so today I'm going to go in this session, I want a Men in Black where I can't remember from ages 12 to 19. And then boom, and then now what kind of drummer would I be in that setting? With all the same maybe skill that I have, but just from a instinct standpoint.
Yeah, but also you have to realize that most people our age grew up listening to the same things. that we did, bands like Paramore were huge, and all of the Warped Tour was such a big thing. Whoever, the 30-year-old artist is now that you're recording with, or 20-year-old to 35-year-old that you're working with, they deep down in there, they have those same influences, and they might like when some of that stuff comes out a little bit, just, even if it's a different genre. I
always think about how as artists we're just like a sort of conglomerate of all of our favorite bands, drummers, whatever. Like you could be the version of Lee Von Helm that grew up listening to Blink-182, like that crazy hybrid. You're just like this smattering of all your heroes, and that creates your own unique voice.
This episode is brought to you by Big Fat Snare Drum, specifically the Big Fat Snare Drum Bargain Bin. We're talking brand new heads that aren't scratched or dented. We just have too many, so get them for cheap. We've also dropped some new full coverage textile cloth designs, and our Pick 3 bundles are now live. It's an easy way to outfit your whole kit with many of our most popular heads. Just choose one of these 3 size sets, 10, 12, 14, 12, 14, 16, or 13, 14, 16. Go check out all of that at bigfatsnaredrum.com. All right, so I don't even know how to word this one, but it happened yesterday, and I realized I can probably have more passion about these questions if it's stuff that actually happens to me and then I talk to you guys about it. So I was playing a show the other night, and the producer, or both producers of the actual songs it was kind of like a CD release birthday thing for the artist. And so the producers that were on the record came out to play with us, a band that's already kind of started playing together. So as everyone was there, and during the rehearsal, there was a few spots that our MD maybe didn't catch because he didn't have every stem. I mean, it was the producers. They had soloed everything. They had written the song. So there's a few things that we were doing. They're like, oh, can you, do this maybe, or we're missing this, or I missed this, whatever. And there was this one part where I was doing twice. He came to me and said, can you do this, and both times I was already doing that. And I got super defensive, like, yeah, no, I'm already, like I was not mean about it, but I was also kind of like in a way being like, yeah, bro, I'm already doing it. Maybe pay attention more. And then the piano player, he's like, he probably just means play that part a little, higher, whatever. Like a simple thing. I just immediately got defensive. But do you guys ever feel like that, or just you like immediately get defensive when it's something that is probably nothing negative towards your playing?
No, man, never. I'm just kidding. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. So I'm not just a narcissist.
Yeah. No, dude. I mean,
well, how do you guys deal with constructive criticism? If it's something, because some people really don't like being told how to play. How do you guys grapple with that?
For me, I just feel like my career, just my ability as a drummer, got a lot better once I realized that it's typically never going to be about me.
Mm-hmm.
I think once I kind of had that realization, maybe sometime, like after being told, like, okay, like a measure long fill doesn't mean we have to like try to do 16th notes or 32nd notes as fast as possible.
What?
Once I realized that wasn't the move, I know, crazy, right? But I think like once I had that realization, I've tried to be more like open-minded to it. Now, sometimes you're working with an artist, and also a lot of it is like they don't maybe speak the same language as we do. And I think like I learned a lot of that too, just like doing like the pit orchestra, like in high school, right? Even like the drama kids or whatever, they would come over to talk to our director about things, and they're like, "Oh, can you play that faster?" And it's like we never made it any faster, but we did whatever their translation would have meant.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the thing specifically about one of the songs is he was saying the groove wasn't there, and as a drummer, that's just like,
That's not cool.
And I didn't say anything because, again, I was playing what was on the record. But then he's like, what if the bass became more syncopated and matched the kick drum in this way? And then the bass player did it. He's like, that's it. And so I was like, oh, it wasn't about me at all.
Yeah, everyone thinks they know how to play drums because you can program them. It's a bunch of... Everyone is always telling the drummer what to do nowadays. And I'm sure it's always been like that. But I think you just got to, like, smile and just keep doing whatever you're doing.
Well, I will say that both the suggestions that they did make the song feel better. So, and I was already playing one of the parts that he said, oh, can you do this part in the verses? and I just made it a more bigger dynamic shift, and it worked. And so I was like, oh, all right.
I will say this: my main band back home, I started as like for hire with them, but I remember just the first time I started playing with them, this was many years ago now. All of their recordings up to this point were all the songwriter, vocalist, guitar player would program all of it. So I came in and it was definitely like, okay, I'm gonna like play, the kick patterns and like get all the stuff right, but like certain fills I'm gonna kind of like do whatever.
Yeah.
And then realizing they didn't like that. And then like years later, just like learning how to go about this stuff, it's just like sometimes they view it differently than we do, right? Like sometimes we're growing up listening to like our classic rock influences, for example, and you think of like, okay, it's like they're just like kind of somehow all four people doing their own thing, but sometimes it all comes together and just like works. But for certain music, you realize like, damn, like that kick part needs to be that because that's like what the bass is, and things like, it's just, you realize how intentional sometimes these like producers, songwriters really are. And I think it's made me, like, that band has made me a far better drummer. But I think, yeah, sometimes it's funny too. I know you said this before in other shows, like you listen back to like your recordings that you did, like demos that you did in like middle school or high school, and you go, damn, can I even do that anymore?
Yeah, usually it's
like,
no.
It's like, was I actually better? I don't know.
I think so much of it is just developing that ability to smile and nod.
Yeah.
I remember like it was like my professors in college really ingrained that to me.
Which that's kind of where I wanted to get this conversation going. Like, what are some tips? Like, yeah, please.
I just remember like a specific instant. I was in like, an orchestra rehearsal and I'm playing marimba, and the conductor like stops and is giving notes to everybody in front of the whole, orchestra. And he goes to me and he's like, can you play the marimba part with hard plastic mallets? And I was just like, and knowing full well that you should never play marimba with hard plastic mallets. So I just like turned around and just pulled the same mallets out and just played harder. And then, next pass, he gives me a thumbs up, whatever. But I'm so grateful to have had those experiences of just like, sometimes you just have to like interpret what non-drummers mean when they're talking to drummers,
Manipulate
it's
them.
just like, yeah, well,
Gaslight
yeah,
them.
exactly. Yeah. Gaslight them. Gaslight your band members, guys.
Yeah.
That's the moral of the story.
Eric Urrea.
Dude, that's just like what orchestra directors did, dude. I remember I had, like, in college, I did, like, the kit for, like, West Side Story or something. I was pretty confident in my timekeeping, but he kept on being like, you're not in time, you're not in time. And, like, I guess I wasn't, because you know how orchestra directors are given, like, that one little extra inch for those violins or, like, whatever other, like, wind instruments. So it's like, oh, I guess I wasn't. Me not being in time means that I should have been playing, like, not in time, following him more. Like, yeah, no. It's all learning.
Yeah, what is in time? You know what I mean?
Exactly. What?
This is something I wrote down, so it's going to maybe be sound a little stale here, but how do you balance developing your own taste and staying relevant to what's current? If you love a snare sound that everyone else has moved past, do you lean into your own harder, or do you worry about sounding dated? This, I guess, is less in context of being paid for hire people, but like your own projects that you're writing for. How do you make sure that you stay relevant but also inspired? I'll start with Eric, because I know for a fact you write your own stuff,
Man, I feel like as soon as you start chasing trends, you're already behind. Like if you hear a song on the radio and you're like, man, I want to write a song like that, by the time you write it, produce it out, release it, could be 6 months to a year later and the world has moved on. I just kind of double down, and when I have conversations with my own band, it's mostly just about, we want to write the music that we want to hear. It's like almost a selfish process. It is a selfish process, It's tough to kind of like ignore and not follow trends, but I think at the end of the day, it's just doubling down on what you like and what excites you, and generally, I think that breaks through the mold.
Well, Eric, to stay on you, so do you think that you have your distinct voice as a drummer?
Oh, I don't. That's a totally different question.
Well,
no, I don't know.
I mean, just adding on to, we'll make that the next question.
No,
It's an easy question.
I mean, speaking of things we're self-conscious about, no, I would like to think that I have my own voice as a drummer. I guess what I would say confidently is like, I know what my strengths and weaknesses are. I'm painfully aware of what my weaknesses are. Whether that's my own voice, I feel like that's for somebody else to say. I'm too in it. I'm too too close.
God, there's so many pins I want to be like touching on, but I do want to get back to something you said, Eric. But Dean, do you feel like you have your own unique voice?
I don't think I have a unique or unique voice. I don't really think I do as an entertainer. That element. I think I have a character of sorts, but as a musician, a player, I don't really feel that way. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been the band again, like my own group that I'm in. It's just one. The rest is all like for hire stuff. So I feel like I try to fit a mold to some degree. I guess my voice is just what my current abilities are, perhaps. But again, like I started out as hired with my own group, and a lot of their stuff, they grew up on like Two Door Cinema Club. That first record would have been like influences.
Fun drum parts, so then I'm sure.
Super, like very fun and creative, but all again intentional. But their stuff was like our singer's like, I don't like crashes. Just go to the ride, And of course, it's changed now too, since I guess I did grow up with like the classic rock stuff. I liked a lot of metal in middle school, but if I were to start my own band now, I would like the Dean Sinclair project or whatever. I have no idea what it would be or what my inspiration for it would be. Yeah.
You said that pretty quickly. It seems like you have that name. You said that before.
The Dean Sinclair, no. Nothing will shows up for that one on Spotify.
Okay.
But, yeah, we'll have to dig harder for that solo project.
What about you, Max? I feel like you do, man.
So the question is, do I have my own voice?
Maybe how do you feel, at what part of your journey are you with that? Let's talk about your journey, dude, and your demons.
Well, I think everyone has their own voice, whether you really think you do or not. Some people are more developed than others, like a Jay Bellerose or like a Brian Blade or any one of those guys. It's like really like, oh, that's them.
Maybe it's like a genre specific thing, because I think someone in the realm of Brian Blade and Jay, like those guys can be in projects that are recorded where they have a little more freedom to express, to develop their voice in their own unique way.
Well, okay, so then we're going to
that.
say some bad things. We're going to get into this.
Good, finally.
Okay, so that has been kind of my goal for the past however long, 10 years of touring and stuff and recording. It's more true now than ever with AI going on, because that AI can play your drum parts more perfectly and precise than you ever could as a human being. So you can't compete with that. You can't make the goal placing the bass drum perfectly on the grid or this and that and the other. You have to really figure out your own feel and textures and things for a song, because I feel like if you're the guy who is like, I can do anything, I can do like that's like the old music school sense of like teaching is you need to be able to do this, that, and the other. You need to be able to play jazz, you need to be able to play top 40, blah, 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 like everything. And what really, we're so oversaturated with drummers that can do that there's a lot of incredible drummers that are not working right now, that are not touring, that are not doing things. And I don't know if that has to do with what, but I think having your own voice is way more important and should be the goal of way more drummers, just because, and a lot of people probably disagree with me, but because this AI stuff is coming, I think it's going to make live music more valuable. I think it's going to make recorded music way less valuable, and it already kind of has. And it's also going to push the limits of what music is and art and all of this, because it's like, if a bunch of people have their own voice, it's just going to make a bunch of different types of gumbo. I don't know.
I mean, for the record, I agree with you.
Yeah.
How do you cultivate that? Like, if someone's like, okay, Max, I agree with you. what would you recommend, and how do you work on your own voice? Because you said it's kind of your goal, your main goal right now.
Well, it's been my main goal, and it took a long time to feel like I'm on a gig where there's a lot of improvising. Recently I've been doing this guy Lukas Nelson, and we're busy for the rest of the year, and there's no click, no tracks. We're on wedges, most of the band, and it's a big 6-piece band, and the show changes every single night. And it's kind of, even in the hiring process, it was like, we're not going to get people, because it's country Americana, and we're not going to get country people. We're not going to get Nashville guys, because they like, the Nashville thing is like, this is how country music goes. This is what it is, like, fit in that box. And just seems so much more freeing than that. And the bass player lives in Japan. The fiddle guitar guy lives in Oklahoma. Everyone is just from all over. And it's just really makes this creative environment that's so much fun and so much more rewarding than anything I've ever done. I don't know. I think that's kind of... So to answer your question, I don't know. I hope I have my own sound.
I think you do. Going back to what you said earlier, it surprises me that you grew up with, a hardcore scene, because you're one of those drummers that when I look, I'm like, fuck, I bet he's been listening to the coolest music since fucking day one, and I'm so far behind, because you do have a great touch. But
thanks.
I know what you're saying, though, because I grew up in that world, and even if I'm barely playing, I listen back, and it still sounds like a heavy-handed drummer, and I don't quite know how to fix that. Maybe softer sticks, I guess, but...
Yeah, sticks, you can always use chopsticks. That's like
exactly. It's not wrong. But
what about you, Ben? Do you feel like you have your own voice?
Yeah.
I'd like to think so. I mean, actually, recently I've been really exploring this, because I re-uploaded the episode of Billy Martin from a few years ago, like 3 years ago, working on the second book, and he encourages every drummer to start their practice with a free solo. Just no rules. I can over-explain it, but just no rules, like in the most obvious way. Just say no to nothing. And it's been really fun, because I definitely do have tendencies that I do, and even if I'm trying to be kind of Weather Report with it or Brian Blade with it, there's still that Southern California energy that I can bring when I want to, that maybe someone who didn't grow up with that doesn't have that in their arsenal, So it's been really fun the last few weeks especially, and I've been consciously trying to just see what comes up. But I'd like to think that the certain energy that I bring to Eve 6 is a similar energy and intention that I bring to Cannons, even though it's completely different genres. But I think my hi-hat work, a lot of times these things that you're exhausted over that you do, most people haven't heard that before, or haven't heard that in a while. So the things that you roll your eyes at, they're like, that's really refreshing to them. So... I just assume that everyone has the same taste in music. So when they hear this thing that I do, they go, oh, I know where he pulled that from, but normally they don't. And I've talked about it before, but this is maybe 6 years ago when Eve 6 was doing the 20th anniversary of the first record. We play like half the first record every show, but the second half I had to go kind of relearn. And as I was learning the songs, I was like, oh, I do that all the time. I wonder if it was actually from when I was younger, listening to this record, and now I do it, and now I'm asked to learn it. So who knows? If you have a tendency that you hate, maybe you'll be in that band one day, and it'll work out perfectly.
I gotta say, the only other time I've seen you play besides the other night was we played a festival together. You were playing with Cannons, and I think I was in San Diego. You remember when we met?
Yeah, you were with Lizzie, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that was great, but that's like a pop show, and then seeing you play this show the other night, like, you just sounded like it was a really cool, vibey indie rock. I just thought it was really beautiful. The cymbals sounded great, the snare sounded great, and you told me going into it, like, oh, it's just an acoustic thing, but it was way more than that, and it was very beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you, Max. That means a lot coming from you, man. Seriously. No
problem.
A little Venmo cash reward thing shows up on his screen. Ding, ding, ding.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've seen Dean play a million shows. Our bands have played so many shows together, and we've crossed paths a billion times. And from my perspective, I can instantly, I'm like, oh, that's Dean playing drums. Like, if I was in the bar and, like, one of the bands on the bill started, I could probably tell that's Dean playing drums. And it's tough when you're so close. When you hear all of the things that you've been practicing for hours and hours and hours, it's so easy to just be like, yeah, I don't have my own sound. Like you said, Ben, I think we just assume that everybody else has been on that journey with us and has listened to the same songs and knows where we're pulling from. It reminds me of, like, I saw Gavin Harrison do a clinic, and he said, no one is more bored of my playing than me. And I think about that all the time. I'm like, I'm so bored of my own playing, and I wish I could play like, Aaron Sterling or whatever. I've listened to myself drum for too many hours. So it's one of those things. But yeah, I mean, I'd say the same for you, Ben. I've seen you play several times, and you for sure have your own sound.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, so do you. All you guys. You guys, I mean, I think out of the four of us, I'm the one who never posts my own drum videos. You guys are always good about being like, hey, I'm a drummer, hire me. I'm the idiot. So I can clearly say, and the audience can too, go check them out. They're great drummers as well.
You might be happier for it, though. So.
Yeah, for real.
True.
I mean, I'm my own masochist. Not that I don't edit myself every damn week with the voice thing. So I'm probably more insecure about my talking than I am my drumming, but I edit this more, so it's a masochistic little cycle I'm in. Is good taste something you're born with or something you can develop? And how do you know when you have it?
I don't know that it exists. Does it exist? I don't know. I think about being a kid and listening to Limp Bizkit and Korn and nu metal.
Hey, I still fuck with both those bands, by the way.
I mean, for the record, same. I was just talking about how Limp Bizkit's underrated in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But whatever, it's fine. But I remember making fun of my sister, who was, on a Backstreet Boys NSYNC kid, like every young girl from the 90s was. And I was like, you're gonna totally regret this. And now I'm like all in on pop music. I'll jam Carly Rae Jepsen unapologetically, and also Limp Bizkit too. But I think, like, I'm not ashamed of these artists, and I'm sure there's a million people who would say, well, that Eric doesn't have good taste. It's such a subjective thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's any way to quantify it ever.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels bad when you go to show someone something that you think is awesome, and it's like, cool, and then like the next song plays 30 seconds later, But
then they play 30 Seconds to Mars, and they're like, but this though.
Yeah. It makes me feel bad, but it's never stopped me, I don't think. I've never, I think, completely changed the genre that I'm into at a certain moment based off of an outside opinion.
I'm curious if any of you guys do the same thing. I hate being in the room when I'm showing someone something that I have written.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, that is my least favorite thing in the world. So I will do everything I can to just not be in the room, or like, text it to them and just be like, go have your own honest reaction without me looking at you.
Don't
being
talk
like,
to me for 5 years. And
what
then...
do you think? Yeah.
I mean, it's the same reason I can't open presents in front of people.
Oh, totally.
Least favorite thing in the world.
I don't know. I love that shit. And if
You
they
love
don't
showing
like it,
people your songs and just like staring at them.
yeah, and it's like, they don't get it. That's all right.
How have you
That's
gotten to
awesome.
that point?
I
That's
could never.
a huge
I love
strength.
It's just, it doesn't matter. There's no like ultimate truth to.
Who are your
You know.
parents? They need to be congratulated. They raised a very strong boy. One thing I did realize, and I guess maybe that going back, and this will kind of be, we can end it with this, but I take lessons with a guy named Nate Morton who plays for The Voice. He's an incredible drummer, really loose, really theatrical, and I love learning with him right now. And we were going over this like Gary Chafee thing, and he had me play an exercise, and he said, okay, I want you to play it again, but this time I want you to kind of like think of a bass line while you play it. And I did, and he said that changed everything. And because he said the first time I was playing it, it felt like I was playing an exercise. And it's always been a huge insecurity of mine, which I think is why I got so insecure when the guy was like, it doesn't have a groove, is because I've been told before that sometimes when I play in the studio or if someone's watching me, when it's mostly in a non-live setting, but like if I'm being analyzed by someone, that I get super stiff. And especially that's like my like red light syndrome version of myself, is I don't mess up a lot, but I just play stiff. And Do you guys have a sense of that? And when you're playing along in the studio, do you overemphasize hi-hat patterns to make it groove more? Or how do you guys deal with that? And I don't even know if that's a good question, but are you guys aware of that? Is there a difference to you?
For sure, I'm hyper aware of it. Honestly, like, that's part of the reason why I post so much on social media, is I intentionally put myself in that red light scenario. Like, I've been doing a thing recently where I will turn on the camera and film myself soloing as soon as I sit down in the kit. I hate soloing.
Dude, that one
And
you
it
maybe a week and a half ago
it
was
was
so
crazy.
fucking good. It was so hot.
That means so much to me, you don't even know. I do a lot to try and simulate the red light syndrome, and that helps me a lot. Honestly, I think part of that goes back to another thing that my professors in college helped me out a lot, is like, they said during recital prep to like bring your friends in and have them watch you in the practice room. And that I took a lot of that to heart. I don't know if it's made me better, but I'm actively working on it.
I think for me, when I am nervous or in my own head about whatever, the thing that takes away the groove for me that makes me sound stiff is I lose the pulse in the higher frequencies. I'm going ch-ch as opposed to ch-ch-ch-ch. I'm just saying, like, that's really helped my groove and feel, is always being super present, that I'm having this vacuum effect from usually my right hand.
I definitely do a lot more live work than studio. For example, like on the tour right now, like every night we have 2 like killer drummers watching me. So I guess like my thing is, instead of like, I'm doing my best to really just enjoy playing live and in front of people and just like smiling more and being present. I'm trying, it sucks because like, I gotta try to get some content or whatever, but I'm trying not to have like the phone up every night, the majority of the nights, because I'm like focusing on that, making sure I'm hitting like record on something as opposed to just like being in the moment. So if anyone's gonna criticize me on anything about like playing, at least they could know that I'm still at least having like a damn good time doing it. And I think that's important too. Like, yeah, we're at work, but like, I don't know, like, why do we do this in the first place?
And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum and you will find us. The show is edited in part using Isotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at isotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye.